This is Casey Hendrickson on News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about this vaping thing because there is a lot of people out there who don't know much about vaping, and I could appreciate that. If you don't do it, there's no reason for you to know a lot about it. Now, I personally don't vape, but because I was engrossed in this this local battle with this for some time that happened in Indiana, I ended up learning a whole lot. I also happen to know a lot of people who vape. I know a lot of people are in the vaping industry, and I've been able to get information that way. So vaping is not dangerous, okay? I'm just going to say this point blank. Now, here's where the few of you that are very uninformed about this are going to run around and go, there's hundreds of people that have this lung disease now because of vaping. All right, let me just ask you a question. Take a step back from the fear-mongering, okay? Take a step back. Vaping has been around for, what, a decade? Ballparkish? It's been going really hot for 6-7 years, okay? Nobody has ever been hospitalized because of vaping. All of a sudden, now when this got started, it was a span of 72 hours. All of a sudden, within a span of 72 hours, hundreds of people were hospitalized because of vaping? Does that make sense to anybody? Now, that sounds like it's one of two things. Either there is a defective product that hit the market, and all of these people were using said defective product, which absolutely can happen. It happens with lettuce, ladies and gentlemen. It can certainly happen with a vaping device. So you have either a defective product or you've got a bunch of people doing illegal stuff. Which, by the way, right, Joe? We know people do illegal stuff with their vaping device. I know, right? These kids these days. At least it's not Tide Pods. I'd rather them do the vaping thing than the Tide Pod thing. Tide Pod thing is more dangerous. So you've got hundreds of people who all of a sudden have this lung thing. Now, there's something else that I pointed out too. There has been a low-level lung infection that has been going around parts of the country for a couple of weeks now. I have had it. Joe has had it. He had it worse than I have. And you don't really feel sick. It's just that you kind of cough some stuff up occasionally. So it's just really low-grade, low-level sort of a thing. But Joe he had some symptoms for a few days that were pretty bad. So I was wondering if there was a lot of that viral infection that was going around, that just people were vaping and, parents freaked out or whatever and just happened to take them to the hospital. You had the press running with this CDC story. And the press was saying the CDC is investigating all of these vaping-related illnesses with lung disease. And the CDC came out and said, no, that's actually not what we're doing. We've got several hundred people who are in the hospital or have sought out medical care because of a chest infection, and we're looking into it. We don't know if it has anything to do with vaping. If it does have something to do with vaping, we don't know if any of these things are actually linked together or if this is a totally separate viral infection. So the CDC made that crystal clear in their report, which I read to you verbatim on the air. And of course, the press just rolls with, oh, it's connected with vaping. I just watched a Shepard Smith segment about it. Okay. Now, I didn't have the audio turned on, so I couldn't hear everything that his guest was saying, but the headline is, vaping scare, yada, yada, yada. People are freaking out about this. But if you take a step back and you go, all right, for 10 years, people have been doing this, and literally nobody's been sent to the hospital for it unless they had one of those cheap devices that blew up in their pocket. That did happen several times. People had a cheap device that blew up in their pocket, just like your iPhones blew up in your pocket on 2 separate occasions, and your Samsung Galaxy phones blew up in your pocket, and your Samsung washing machines. It was the washing machines that blew up, right? Or was it the dryer? I don't know, whatever. Samsung makes some pretty cool tech gadgets that blow up, which I think is impressive, by the way. So for those of us who like the extra features of exploding devices, okay, that's a win for us. So you've had all of these major devices. None of you have stopped buying your Samsungs, and none of you have stopped buying your iPhones because they're good devices. And yet they have both gone through multiple facets of blowing up in your pocket. So yes, there have been some vaping devices that have blown up in your pocket, but nobody has been sent to the hospital for vaping. Period. Nobody. All right. Now, all of a sudden, we've got a couple of hundred people. Now, I guess the cases have ballooned up to like 400. What are people doing with their vaping devices? They're buying illegal drugs and they're running it through the stupid vaping device. Guess what the research says it is? Before I went on vacation, they said, we think it's vitamin E associated with THC. So people who are doing cannabis with their vaping device, where apparently there's this vitamin E additive or whatever that they're doing, was causing some issues with people's lungs. So people who are doing illegal drugs through their vaping device were having this issue. Now, according to a new report on patients in Illinois and Wisconsin, don't you know, who experienced severe respiratory illness after vaping, 83% admitted using black market cannabis products. So black market means not legal, right, Joe? Last we checked? Okay. Is smoking marijuana, is that legal in Illinois yet or no? I don't remember. Did they pass a rec? Or is it? Yeah, I have to look at that. I'm not sure. Could you look that up for me? Well, 17% said that they had used nicotine only. And I'm sure that 17%, I'm sure that they're telling the truth. Sure of it. Some of them may have been reluctant to admit to using illegal drugs. Kind of weird, right? What do we got for Illinois?
So they did pass, but it's not legal yet.
Okay, so
on
all right.
the 25th
so it still
of June.
It hasn't gone into effect.
Yeah,
okay, so it's kind of like Michigan. We're waiting for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's not clear that any of them were using standard e-cigarettes, okay? And remember, the CDC is still conducting the research on this. The findings cast further doubt on the wisdom of general warnings about vaping and e-cigarettes, which imply that legal nicotine products are implicated in these cases. I'd also like to point out that a lot of vaping juice out there doesn't even have nicotine in it, okay? Such warnings may encourage former smokers who are now vaping to start smoking again, a decision that exposes them to much greater health risks. So, and this is important that people understand this. The most successful smoking cessation method ever devised in all of human history has been vaping. Period. End of story. Are there people who do it for recreational purposes? And I'm not talking about drugs. They just vape because they like the flavor. They think it looks cool, whatever. Yes. Do I endorse that? No. Is there any evidence that that is bad for you? No. None whatsoever. Literally no evidence has ever been presented that vaping is unhealthy for you. Now, this is where you get the other people. Well, we don't have any long-term studies on vaping that show that it's going to be perfectly safe. No, but we've got a 10-year track record of nobody going to the hospital for it, which is darned impressive considering tens of millions of people do it. You know, that nobody's ever gone to the hospital for it. Casey, until now. Yeah, people are doing illegal drugs in the thing. Okay, people are buying illegal products and illegally running it through a modified vaping device, not using standard production quality stuff or regulated stuff. So that's what's so funny about this. But you still have everybody running around, and you got every government entity, especially in Indiana, because Indiana really hates vaping. They want to push their own smoking cessation thing because they have money for it from the federal government. So they are pushing that program. They're squashing vaping in the state of Indiana, just like they have done for many years. The FBI had to investigate that because we had several corrupt politicians in the state capitol got caught taking bribes and killing vaping in here simply because of kickback deals. So there's a whole conspiracy against vaping that is based purely on money and political influence. But right now, the information that we have is that these cases appear to be tied to illegal drug use in the vaping device, okay? Not to your standard vaping liquids that you would go to any reputable store, licensed business to get. This appears to be all black market, THC-related cannabis, marijuana, whatever you want to call it, and people are doing this illegally. And most of these people, I know you're shocked, are young people. And there's also, as people on the live stream pointed out, there's also some air quote recipes, I guess would be the way you would phrase this, where they're doing a bunch of stupid things with butane and other stuff that could potentially be causing these problems. So, you know, you sit in a room long enough and breathe in chlorine, I got news for you, you're going to get sick. So anyway, it appears to be much ado about nothing, like I predicted before, but we will wait, of course, for the final report to come out. This report was in the New England Journal of Medicine, in case you are curious about this. We've got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel, also covering for Pat Miller on News Talk 1190 WOWO, 107.5 FM.
Casey Hendrickson.
News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Your breaking news and weather station.